So this tabletop is way too small for multiple monitors. The legs, I think the company uses the same size legs regardless of what size tabletop you have. So I'll recycle the legs, but we're replacing the tabletop today with something cooler. The wood I'm using, I'm gluing several pieces together, and it's actually recycled wood from a new gas station they're throwing away with a free trash sign. It had a bunch of cheap staples in it that I couldn't pull out. They would just snap off inside. So instead of risking damaging the router, I just cut all the edges off. That's the pile you see off on the side. And it's warped and knotted and banged up, so I'm trying to flatten it out as best I can while they're all drying together. And then to reinforce it, one of these pieces of wood, I'll go ahead and screw that to the back of it and glue it down. This little chicken decided not to hang out inside the chicken coop and secretly made a bunch of baby chicks because it wanted babies. So the first step, we got it on the table. We're going to go ahead and flatten it out and shave a thin layer off the top. Now it's shaved to about right here, but this thing can only do 4 feet by 4 feet at a section, so I scooted it down some. And now what I'm doing is I just have, here's my middle point right here. I have the router set to 0.001 of a cut, so in theory it shouldn't touch the board. And I'm just running a line and then figuring out how much I need to move that line until it runs perfectly over this line. Then I'll set this up. There's the text, and the end of the text, or the center of the text is on that line. And that's when I'll know where the middle point is since I moved the board. Okay, so we just finished shaving the top. We shaved it to here. We have to shave it in sections. So once the epoxy part is done, we'll shift the whole board down a little bit more. And then we need to shave to at least this line, but no further than that line. And this is how far we've shaved already. I'm just keeping a safe buffer. So for the next spot, I can't find my glue gun. I'm tired of looking for it. So I'm just gonna beat up some masking tape, because this is going to be black and then that's going to be glitter green, and it's pretty deep. So the idea is once it's all filled in, it's hardened for at least 24 hours, I'll come back and shave this down again, so then all this stuff, it'll be sanded pretty smooth, so won't have to worry about that. And that's why the pockets are so deep, and that gives a chance to let all the air bubbles get to the top, any imperfections, and then you just shave off the top. Over here, some of the wood's splintered, not surprised, it's right next to a knot. So what I did is, so I get a little paper cup, I scoop up some really soft, fine sawdust, put a couple drops of wood glue in there, mix it up like a mud, and then just put it in there. And then, I guess I should have showed you earlier, so like right here between the H and the R, the wood was missing. So I got these and squished them really flat, then slid them in the H and then slid them in the R. And then I put the sawdust and wood glue in the middle, and then this would keep it from pouring back into the letters. And then once it hardened, you can see you just pop them out, the glue sticks to this, but now we have a nice clean chunk of wood there. And then once everything's hardened, like this is full of epoxy, when we go back through with the router and shave off like 1/10 of a millimeter, then it should look pretty good. Okay, that worked pretty well. We got a little masking tape wall, so any excess epoxy, it can just spill over. And that always makes it easier to have the heat gun getting the air bubbles out. So now I'll do that part. It seems like a waste making that much epoxy, but it's better to have too much than too little. Because if you remix this, like if you run out and have to remix it, it's going to be very difficult to get the exact same level of black. We got a couple air bubbles. We're going to heat it up a little bit, pop some of those air bubbles. I should have made this tape closer. Okay, that's the green I'm using. Just a cheap Amazon thing, no big deal. And then now I got my part A, part B. I'm going to mix it and then put it in the vacuum chamber, get some air out of it, and then we'll be pouring it in. At this point, I'm using the same strategy I used where the wood broke earlier. This is sawdust and wood glue. Basically, where the top pieces of wood and the bottom reinforcement wood meets, there's a little bit of a seam crack. So I'm just going to fill that in there. Once it dries, I'll sand it back down and then spray paint it again. Also, the epoxy leaks over the edge when I epoxy the entire thing. So it's going to put a thin layer of epoxy over the black spray paint to protect it so it doesn't wear off over time. Using different lighting angles helps you see imperfections and air bubbles